Hey everyone, it's the Doom Dog. So, I bought a PlayStation Classic. In the weeks leading up to its release, the PlayStation Classic was the topic of much controversy. It seemed that every day people found something new to complain about with regards to it. The price at launch, the use of original controllers over the more popular DualShock, the games list, the use of 9 PAL games instead of using all NTSC games. Even the menu was criticized. It honestly felt like no one had anything positive to say about it at all. And I even did my own video of it where I criticized the games list for not including classics for the console. I wanted one anyway, though. I'm a huge fan of Sony's hardware, and the PlayStation 1 is my favorite console of all time. I like the idea of a mini console as a collector's item as well. I didn't get one at launch, though. I thought about it, but I didn't have the spare cash at the time. I wound up waiting over a month, and I'm kind of glad I did. I managed to snag one for $60 instead of the launch price of $100. That's a massive drop in price. Is it a good purchase at that price, or are the problems too great that it is still difficult to justify even with $40 off the launch price? Let's take a look. First off, can we talk about the box that this thing came in? The nostalgia starts the moment you lay eyes on it. It is a gorgeous package that looks almost exactly like the packaging for the original PlayStation. There are differences, of course. It has the HDMI logo on it, for example. But in general, this box is awesome. I love it. It makes you think that Sony put a lot of love and care into the system when they designed it. Well, they certainly put a lot of love and care into the box, at least. Oh, and a screenshot of Meryl's codec is included on the back of the box. Nice touch, Sony. So, what all is included with your PlayStation Classic? You get the unit itself, 2 controllers, a micro USB, 2 USB cable for power, and an HDMI cable. Including 2 controllers is another nice touch. It's appreciated as there are a few multiplayer games included with this console. You can hook it up and start playing multiplayer immediately. What's less nice, however, is the lack of a plug for the power cable. Why do companies keep doing this? It was stupid when Nintendo did it, and it's stupid when Sony does it. Are you really saving that much by not including a USB wall plug? Let's take a look at the unit itself. Look at this thing. It is absolutely spot on. The molding is excellent. It looks exactly like the original PlayStation made smaller. All 3 buttons work too. The power button turns the system on and off. The reset button exits out of your current game and takes you back to the system's user interface. And the open button is used for switching discs. When you reach the point where a game would require you to switch discs to continue, you hit the open button to do that. That's pretty cool. It has 2 USB ports on the front for the 2 controllers, and it has a power and HDMI slot on the back to plug it in. It has a little weight to it. It feels solid to hold in your hands. It does not feel like Sony cheaped out at all when they put this thing together. It's pretty great. As previously mentioned, the package does come with 2 controllers, so let's take a look at the controllers. The cords are a little short, but they are longer than the NES and SNES Classic. We're getting there with controller length on these things, but it's taking a while. It's rather impressive how authentic it feels. I have a lot more experience with the DualShock than I do with the original version. The DualShock is a much better controller, and yes, I would have preferred it. Having said that, this is not a bad one, and it feels pretty much identical to the originals from what I remember. It's like holding the original PlayStation controller for the first time again, and they work well. Props to Sony again for nailing these things. So what are we looking at here? It's a quad-core ARM Cortex A35 processor running at 1.5 GHz. 1 gig of DDR3 RAM and a PowerVR 8300 GPU. It has 16 gig of flash storage. It's nothing too powerful or over the top, but it doesn't need to be. It gets the job done for playing PlayStation games well enough. It only outputs in one resolution, and that is 720p. I have to ask why. I know this is the industry standard set by Nintendo. Both of their classic consoles displayed at 720p as well, but why? Why can't we get a full HD option? Anyway, it's very basic. You don't get options like scan lines to try to hide how dated the games are. It bothers other people, it doesn't really bother me. This is my favorite console of all time, so I'm 100% used to how games look on it. I don't mind it. When you first turn it on, you're greeted with that Sony logo and the bassy, synthy, aesthetic noise that greeted you every single time you booted up your original PlayStation. And I absolutely love it. When you enter a game, you are greeted with the PlayStation logo and the second half of that sound effect as well. It's great. The menu is rather simple. It's based on the UI from the original PlayStation, and the games are in alphabetical order. It works fine. People have thrown too much hate at it, in my opinion. It gets the job done. It could have used some background music, though. You get one virtual memory card for every game included, and you get one save state per game. When you reset the console, it creates a save state. If you already have one, the console will ask if you want to replace the current save state as well. Beyond that, there's really nothing to talk about. So, how are the games? Battle Arena Toshinden. This is an early fighting game for the PlayStation that was considered groundbreaking at the time. How does it hold up? Well, I'm the wrong guy to ask. Fighting games really aren't my genre, and I'm not good at them. I had a bit of fun with this game, but it seems a little bit slower than what I'm used to from fighting games, even ones from the 90s. It does not seem that bad to me, but there are other games that are more obvious to me. Marvel Super Heroes is one of them, and one of the Street Fighter games would have been an obvious choice to me. Cool Borders 2. Extreme sports games were a big deal during this generation, and you have to include something. Tony Hawk seems like the obvious go-to, but it has so many licenses that it might be a nightmare. This is a good alternative, though. This is a fun little snowboarding game. I enjoyed my time with it, and this is one that I would revisit on occasion. I like it. It's not a 100% ideal choice, but I do like it. Destruction Derby. This game feels like a tech demo for what the PlayStation could do, and it would have been impressive back in the day. Rendering this many cars on screen at a time with damaged models at a decent frame rate. This was 1995. That was before Quake. That would have been truly impressive back then. The game itself has 3 cars representing 3 difficulty modes and a small handful of modes and tracks. It does feel a little light on content, but everything included here is a lot of fun. I was rather impressed with this one. It's a lot better than I was expecting it to be. It has a good sense of speed, and when you're dodging in between cars and narrowly avoiding collisions or ramming people into the wall, it's really intense. Give it a try. You may be pleasantly surprised by it. I know I was. Final Fantasy VII. This is one of the biggest games on the original PlayStation, and there is no way that the PlayStation Classic was ever going to ship without it. Personally, I always thought the game was a little bit overrated. I would have preferred Final Fantasy IX or Final Fantasy Tactics to this one, but I can't complain too much. Overrated does not mean bad. It's a good RPG. The story's pretty good. I like some of the characters. The music is absolutely wonderful. I mean, what do you want me to say? It's a good RPG and a worthwhile inclusion. Grand Theft Auto. Holy crap, this control scheme is weird. It takes some getting used to. When you do, you will find that the basic structure of Grand Theft Auto that makes it such a fun and addictive series is here. It's fairly stripped down and simple, but it's still here. Your ability to have fun with this depends upon how much you can put up with the camera, though. It is constantly zooming in and out. Is it possible to make it not do that? It gives me a headache, and personally, it makes me wish GTA 2 was the game included instead of 1. If the camera does not bother you though, you can have fun with it. Intelligence Cube. I was very impressed with this one. This is a puzzle game where you mark spots on the grid and use the marked spots to eliminate blocks. There are blocks that you can't capture and blocks that let you capture a wider area after you capture them. It is easy to pick up and play. It has a tutorial to teach you how to play, but it is difficult to master, and it will get you thinking about the best way to solve each puzzle. I can see why the physical copies of this game tend to demand a higher price. This game's awesome and intense. Jumping Flash. I told you this was a pre-DualShock first-person platformer. What would your initial reaction be? If you're anything like me, you probably think that it's bound to not hold up well. Much to my shock, it holds up extremely well. This game's a hell of a lot of fun. The controls take a little getting used to, but they work well when you do. Your character looks directly down at the ground and casts a shadow, so you know exactly where you're going to land every single time you make a big leap. When you get the hang of it, it's a lot of fun. I was very surprised how much I liked this one. Metal Gear Solid. This is another must-have for the console. It ain't the PlayStation Classic without this game. This was the best game released for the original PlayStation and one of the best games ever made. I have beaten Metal Gear Solid more times than any other game on the system, and is one that I will definitely sit down and beat again on the Classic. It holds up surprisingly well despite the dated graphics and camera. The storytelling, voice acting, characters, music, atmosphere, and gameplay are all still top-notch. Play this game. It's amazing. Mr. Driller. This is another game that I had not played. It's a simple puzzle game where you have to drill your way down through blocks. You have a limited oxygen supply, and you have to pick up packets of oxygen. There are certain blocks that are much harder to drill than others, and blocks will fall as you drill others, holding them up. You have to quickly plan your routes to ensure that you don't get squished. It's addicting arcade fun. It is very, very Japanese, and that's part of its charm. Oddworld, Abe's Odyssey. This is a cinematic platformer in vein with games such as Another World and the PlayStation's own Heart of Darkness. This means a lot of trial and error and figuring out how to progress from one screen to the next as you experience its world and its story. The world and story are the real stars of the show here, though. There is so much storytelling packed into the environment that it makes it a real treat to play through its dark and dreary and somewhat silly storyline. This game is hailed as a classic for a reason, and it deserves that status. Rayman. This is a fairly simple side-scrolling platformer that kicked off the long-running Rayman series, and it's a pretty decent one. The levels are full of color. It's vibrant, with lots of awesome cartoony characters and beautiful animations. It has a good sense of humor to it all, and the level design holds up pretty well. I'm not great at this game, but it is a fun little platformer. I still have to wonder why you pick this platformer over a more obvious choice like Crash or Spyro, though. It's a good game nonetheless. Resident Evil Director's Cut. This is another one where I can't say anything that hasn't already been said. This did not create the survival horror formula. It refined and popularized it. And it holds up pretty damn well. The dialogue is terrible. The voice acting is even worse, but that's part of its charm. The director's cut gives you more than one way to play through the game as well. Yes, 2 is a better game, but I can't complain about 1 being included. It's an absolute classic. Revelations Persona. This game is notable largely for 2 reasons. It is the first game in the Persona series of Shin Megami Tensei, and it is the first Shin Megami Tensei game to be localized in the West. This game is one of the big reasons that I wanted a PlayStation Classic in the first place. I always wanted to play it, and getting a physical copy would cost you an arm and a fucking leg. What I have played thus far intrigues me, and I want to sit down and play some more. It seems pretty awesome. R4 Ridge Racer Type 4. The Ridge Racer series was a big deal on the original PlayStation, so including one seems obvious to me. I would prefer Gran Turismo 1 or 2, but that would come with a crap ton of licenses that would probably cost them through the roof. This is a good arcadey alternative to that. It has a basic storyline for each of the teams that you can choose from. There are different cars, do handle differently, and each team tunes them differently as well. The cars have a real sense of speed to them, and the end result is that there's quite a bit of replay value for racing fans. I'm not the biggest racing fan, but I did enjoy my time spent with it. Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo. This is a bit of an odd inclusion. Why this over a more traditional Street Fighter game? This is a matchmaking blocks puzzle game, though it is an enjoyable one. If you have played Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, it's similar to that, with Street Fighter and Darkstalker characters. I am honestly not entirely sure why they're here though. I'm not sure what they add to the formula, but this is a fun puzzle game. It has multiple modes to keep puzzle fans busy for some time. Siphon Filter. This is the first in a long-running series of action games that Sony should damn well bring back. It spawned so many sequels for a reason. This game is awesome. The controls take a little bit of getting used to being a pre-dual analog control scheme action game, but it works well when you do get the hang of it. It holds up pretty well and is still quite a bit of fun today. Also, this game has the coolest taser in the history of video games. You can light bad guys on fire with it, and it's fucking awesome. Tekken 3. Once again, fighting games are not my thing, but Tekken 3 is a good one. It offers up multiple ways to play and quite a few fighters to play as. There's a lot of replay value here as a direct result. The gameplay itself is good and it has that depth that fighting games fans are looking for. It may not be my genre, but this is a fine example of it done very right. If you like fighting games, you will get a lot of playtime out of this one, especially if you've never played the older Tekken games before. Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six. What in the holy mother of fuck is this control scheme? Holy shit! This is before Alien Resurrection, Red Faction, and Halo standardized the dual thumbstick control scheme that made console shooters a lot more playable, but this is bad even by standards of the time. It is so unnecessarily fucking convoluted. Every single button has more than one function, and it is a chore to play as a result. On top of that, it's more of a straightforward shooter than the PC original, and it doesn't look as good or run as well as the PC original either. Seriously, Sony, why the hell did you include this game on this thing? There are better first-person shooters on the PlayStation. You know that, right? Include Medal of Honor or Medal of Honor Underground. Do they hold up amazingly well? No, but they were better games than this to begin with. Doom Custom PlayStation Edition or the PS1 version of Quake 2 would have been much better than this as well. Just why? Why is this here? Twisted Metal. This game is awesome. I spent a hell of a lot of time playing this game and trying to beat it with every character back in the day, and it still kicks ass. The music is great. The various vehicles are fun to drive. Blowing shit up never gets old. This series was the king of vehicular combat games, and it's not hard to see why. This game is a lot of fun. Once again, the sequel is better, but I can't complain about the first one being included because it's such a damn good game. Wild Arms. I'm going to be honest with you here, This is the best of the 3 RPGs included with the PlayStation Classic. It's awesome. For the most part, it's a fairly typical Japanese RPG, but it does have Zelda-esque puzzle-solving elements in its dungeons. It does everything well, though. The pixel art and environments are gorgeous, the music is excellent, the story is great, the characters are likable. It strikes a nice balance between difficulty and encounter rate so it does not cross over into the realm of frustrating and annoying. This is a great game, and it's well worth your time to sit down and play. That's it. That's your lot. With the lone exception of Rainbow Six, I enjoyed every single game I played on this thing to some extent. It's a good collection of games, and I was pleasantly surprised by a few of them. Like everyone else, I do wish that there were more games, and I wish that it included some other classics such as Spyro, Crash, and Tomb Raider. But what is presented here is, for the most part, at least decently fun. As I mentioned earlier, it does have 9 PAL region games included on it. Those are Battle Arena Toshinden, Cool Borders 2, Destruction Derby, Grand Theft Auto, Jumping Flash, Resident Evil Director's Cut, Tekken 3, and Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six. This means that these games are designed to run at 50 Hz instead of 60 Hz. Essentially, they run at 50 FPS instead of 60. For most of these games, it's not a huge deal, but they definitely affect the fighting games. I do not consider it a deal breaker by any means, but I have to question why Sony did this. It is baffling to me. Overall, I do like this thing. As a collector's item, it looks great. It is well put together in terms of build quality, and I enjoy all but one of the games included, at least to some extent. I definitely feel like I got my $60 worth out of it. There's enough awesome games included here that I definitely considered it a nostalgia trip worth taking. The price fluctuates between $40 and $60 right now, and it's an easy recommendation at that price. Just know going in that it's not perfect. Now Sony, give us a DualShock version that includes Crash, Spyro, and Tomb Raider. We'd all love you for it. Thank you everybody for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe down below. It would be greatly appreciated. If you could share this video, that would help me out a lot as well. Talk to you later, everyone. Doom Dog out.